Kids, back in 2005, a new kind of sitcom began. It was fearless and wasn't about to hide the struggles of 5 financially stable New Yorkers. It's a show that gained a cult following over its 9-season run and ends with one of the most controversial sitcom finales to date. And that show, kids, is How I Met Your Mother. As a fan of the show, I decided to sit down and pick my top 5 favourite episodes. A difficult list to come by, but in my opinion, these top 5 episodes are legend. Wait for it! Legendary. But just before I start, there will be some spoilers in this video because I can't really talk about some of these episodes without spoiling them, so my apologies for that. At number 5, Daisy. First off, it is a great Neil Patrick Harris episode. Everything from the Saltine Challenge to the quirky one-liners at the Captain's residence, Neil Patrick Harris is definitely a source of some seriously good comedy in this episode. Speaking of the Captain, he is such a great character and a great addition to any episode. Plus, I always love Ted's little detective moments, and Josh Radnor is able to express Ted's kind of air of superiority without it coming off as arrogant and it coming off as hilarious instead. Also, both the Captain and Ted make Gilbert and Sullivan references, which I thought was very funny and very smart writing. But of course, this episode concludes with a sweet reveal of Marshall and Lily's second bundle of joy. I think the whole thing is set up perfectly, and the moment where Marshall crouches down and reveals the name of the baby to the audience is just wonderful. It's a beautiful episode that neatly sets Marshall and Lily on their way to having the big family they've always wanted. Coming in at number 4, 3 Days of Snow. Another funny episode culminating with a very heartwarming scene. 3 Days of Snow is a classic How I Met Your Mother episode as it goes above and beyond the standard sitcom narrative. One of the things this show did incredibly well was having separate storylines occurring at different times to different characters. The audience would often find themselves, in this case, following 3 different narratives and never once feeling lost or overwhelmed. Ted and Barney share a great storyline in this episode, finding themselves running the bar and then setting up Puzzles, their own bar. And the whole Puzzles and we should buy a bar thing is one of my favourite running gags in the entire show. Plus, the more I rewatch How I Met Your Mother episodes, the more I come to love Marshall as a character. He's a subtle yet irreplaceable character that is so important to both the comedy and a lot of the story in the show. 3 Days of Snow is a great example of the importance of Marshall Erickson. The final scene is so touching and wonderfully done that I can't help but fall in love with this entire episode, and it stays with me as one of the most memorable episodes in the show's entire catalogue. Coming in at number 3, Bad News. A stunning episode. This episode is a true example of great storytelling, and that sitcoms shouldn't be afraid to dive deep into the emotions of both the characters and the audience. With that said, the episode remains upbeat and funny throughout. Robin's whole first week at work thing is very funny and passes on a great message about steering into the skid. The whole fake Barney and laser tag debacle is great, but of course there's only one thing that this episode is really about. The news of the death of Marshall's father is handled so gracefully, and the whole scene is moving beyond compare. And that includes Jason Segel's final improvised line. Another reason this episode is so brilliant though is that there's a subtle countdown throughout the episode from 50 to 1 until the moment that Marshall hears the news of his father's passing. Throughout the episode, the numbers 50 down to 1 are subtly visible on various objects. For example, a calendar or a poster or a magazine. If you've seen the episode and haven't noticed it, go back and look out for them. It's so well done. I thought it was such a clever device, and it's unique ideas like that that makes How I Met Your Mother stand out from the crowds of sitcoms that there are on TV in the past few years. Coming in at number 2, The Time Travelers. Again, a smart, well thought out episode that leaves the audience with so many feels. Some effective visual effects and the magic of editing allows for a very funny and engaging storyline between Ted and Barney. Plus, the subplot of the origins of Marshall's drink fits in neatly and is very funny, and another reason to love the character of Marshall. The fast-paced comedy between the future and present day Teds and Barneys is very funny and so smooth that you instantly accept the premise that they've been able to time travel. The episode is concluded with yet another touching and moving scene. You could probably realise the pattern in my favourite How I Met Your Mother episodes, how they all end with touching and moving scenes. This moving moment comes from Ted delivering a beautiful monologue that would pluck on the heartstrings of anyone with a soul. And then the episode is wonderfully capped off by the awesome a cappella rendition from Ted and Barney of For the Longest Time, which to this day is one of my favourite How I Met Your Mother moments. For the longest time. That was embarrassing. And finally, at number 1, my favourite How I Met Your Mother episode of all time, The Leap. The Leap is the season 4 finale, and that's an important reason of why it's one of my favourite episodes. My favourite How I Met Your Mother season is season 4, so it would have been difficult for me not to have liked the season 4 finale. Lucky for me, it was fantastic. The whole Barney and Robin thing is sweet. It's the episode where Ted gets beaten up by a goat, which becomes a classic How I Met Your Mother moment, and the episode is littered with some funny lines. But it's the ending of the episode. Of course it is, Owen, you love the endings. That really makes this episode my favourite episode. The Leap itself is brilliant. The leap between the two rooftops is built up throughout the episode to such a height that the moment they actually do it is so inspirational and so uplifting. It's such a feel-good episode and I love it so much. One thing I've yet to mention throughout this entire video though is the music. The music in this show is incredible. I go as far to say that How I Met Your Mother has the greatest music out of all the sitcoms I've ever watched. I sounded British there, didn't I? Watched. The Leap is an episode that perfectly encapsulates the importance of music and how significant it can be when creating tone and mood. If you're wondering, the song in the episode is Profits by A.C. Newman. Another great thing about this episode is what it sets up. This is the episode we see Ted transition into the teaching job, and some of my favourite Ted moments are at his teaching job. We also see Barney and Robin have a first go at a relationship, and that leads to some really fun How I Met Your Mother moments. It's a feel-good episode like no other, and it stays true to everything that the show stands for, and that for me is why it's my favourite episode. Well, those are my top 5 How I Met Your Mother episodes. But before I leave you, let me give you my thoughts on the finale. I quite liked it. I liked that it didn't just end how most people would expect it with just the happily ever after, although I did think that the entire episode was very rushed. They had so much story from all the characters left to be told that I would have happily seen that single episode being stretched into an entire 10th season. I don't think they nailed the ending like Friends did, but then again, How I Met Your Mother was such a complex sitcom, I'm not sure they could have nailed it. Speaking of Friends, my 3 favourite sitcoms at the moment are Friends, How I Met Your Mother and The Big Bang Theory. And a few weeks ago I actually came up with this analogy for those 3 sitcoms. I'll be interested to know if you actually agree with this analogy at all or not. So, The Big Bang Theory is like your best friend. You're great to hang out with and you're very fond of them. How I Met Your Mother is like a long-term girlfriend. Even though it's over, you still care about them a lot, and occasionally you find yourself reminiscing about the good times you had. But Friends is the one. Friends is your soulmate. Friends is the till death do us part. You are never apart for more than a few days and you love each other very, very much. And to this day, you still find yourself laughing at the jokes and stories that you've heard hundreds of times before. What do you think? How does that sound? That perfectly describes my relationship with those 3 sitcoms. Well, that's my time. Thank you very much for watching. I'd love to hear about your favourite How I Met Your Mother episodes in the comments section. Also, while you're down there, in the description is a few honourable mentions of some of the episodes I love but didn't make it into my top 5. Also, if you're interested, I made a video about my top 5 Friends episodes, which there'll be a link to in the end screen. Thanks again for watching, and remember, whatever you do in this life, it's not legendary unless your friends are there to see it. Thanks for watching.